hauling crude oil. It all starts pulling onto the lease. As the driver pulls onto the lease, they survey the area and confirm that everything is safe and secure. This includes looking for spills, vapors, and anything out of the ordinary. The driver then confirms that they are at the correct location. They do this by comparing the signs and tank numbers on location with the information that is provided in their dispatch. Once the lease is confirmed, the driver will gather their oil testing supplies and head for the tank battery. They will climb the tank battery stairs to measure and test the oil prior to loading. Here we're on a location that's under construction. It's never been put into service, so it was approved for me to film on top.
So what do we do on top of the tank? The first thing we're going to do is we're going to get our wood back, and we're going to drop that into the tank and suspend it to the middle of the oil column. This is going to give us our opening tank temperature. We'll tie that off up on top so that it can suspend and adjust to the temperature. That way, depending on the product gravity, it can take 10 to 15 minutes or more for this to adjust correctly. So it's best to put that in first. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to get our top sample. We'll do this with our thief. We have our oil field thief here. We will set it by moving the bottom. You can see that the barrel of the thief is open. We'll set the trip rod there. We can then drop it into the tank and snap it with a quick jerk. That brings it back up to the surface. Normally this would be full of oil. You can see the bottom is now closed. We'll bring this up. We'll take our sample vial and we'll fill this up for our top tank sample on our BS&W. We'll again set the thief, drop it back in, and get a middle sample. For the middle sample, we'll suspend the thief in the hatch, and we'll get our hydrometers. We'll pick the one that's best fitted for the gravity that we're working with. We'll take the hydrometer and we'll suspend it in the thief. It'll take 3 to 5 minutes for the hydrometer to adjust and compensate. After that, we can then record the gravity on the markings while it's still in the thief. And then when we pull it out, we can record the temperature for that sample as well. We'll pull those out, put the hydrometers away. We'll pull the thief out, open it again, dump that, what was our middle sample. We'll trip it again. This time we're going to go to the bottom. We're always starting at the top and working our way down. And for this thief, the bottom port is at 4 inches. We want to take our sample with the thief port 10 inches off the bottom. So we're going to extend the rod 6 inches and set that. Now with our thief open and our rod tripped, we can drop it in the tank, and when it hits the tank floor, it'll trip the thief. Okay? It's closed. We pull this back up to the surface. We can then look through the tube. We can see if there's a visible change in color for our tank bottoms. So we'll check that. We can also take our other sample vial and get our bottom sample for our BS&W measurement. We'll take those, put them back in the tray, and take them back down to the truck. Once we can see if there's anything visible, any visible separation in the thief, we'll take the thief contents, we'll pour them over our gloved hand into the tank, and notice for any visible change in color or consistency there. Once anything different is noticed, we'll turn the thief upright, and whatever's remaining in the thief is recorded as our tank bottoms. Once that's done, we'll put everything away. We'll put the thief away anyways. Get that out of the way. And we'll take our tank gauge. Okay? We have our tank gauge with the grounding strap. Click that off, and we'll drop our tank gauge into the tank. We'll get 3 consecutive readings from the tank, pull it down, and check the liquid level line on the gauge. Sometimes you need baby powder to do this if it's real light oil, and you always want to keep the gauge tape clean and clear so you can get a clean line. We'll get those 3 gauges, make sure that they're consistent, and then we'll record that to the nearest 1/4 inch on our ticket. We will put the tools away. Wipe up any material up here, and the last step would be pull the wood back up, and we can record the temperature of the tank there.
With our filled sample vials and our gauge readings, we will now come down from the tank battery and return to the truck. Once back at the truck, the samples from the tank are mixed with mineral spirits and then heated to 140 degrees. These samples are then placed into the centrifuge to spin. Here we can get a better look at the centrifuge. This is the device that we use to heat and spin the oil samples. The units that we use have a digital readout of the heater pocket and bowl temperatures. The 4 pockets in the front of the machine heat and store the samples before testing. Once the temperature is confirmed at 140 degrees, we will move the samples into the bowl. After placing the sample vials into the bowl, we close the bowl and start spinning the samples. As the samples spin, the centrifugal force pulls the BS&W to the bottom of the sample vials so they can be read and recorded. Once the samples are done spinning, they can be removed from the centrifuge and the BS&W level can be recorded. Once all the testing is complete and it's been confirmed that the oil meets quality standards, we can start connecting the truck to the lease. Here the hose is connected to the main load line of the lease. The driver then returns to the tank battery to open up the main tank valve. The seal is broken at this point, confirming the purchase of this oil. Back at the truck, the driver does one final double check of all of the loading valves and then opens the secondary valve between the load line and the truck load hose. This floods product up into the pump intake valve. The pump intake valve is open there, which floods the system from the truck back to the trailer. The driver will confirm that the trailer is again venting and all the load line valves are in the correct position. They will then return to the pump and place it into gear. Using the Titan system, the driver can monitor the loading of the trailer. Loading typically takes 20 to 30 minutes depending on product gravity. Once the Titan gauge shows that the appropriate product level has been reached, the driver will return to the load hose valve, shut off the product flow from the lease, and then use the truck pump to empty the hose. The driver then returns to the tank battery, closes the main load line valve, and seals it with a numbered tag. The loading connections are closed and secured, and then the driver can return to the top of the tanks to gather the closing measurements. For the closing measurements, we will get the closing tank height and the closing temperature. After these measurements are gathered, the driver can then come down from the tank battery and return to the truck. Back of the truck, the ticket will be completed and all of the information will be entered into the dispatch system. After entering all the information, the ticket will be printed from the truck and then a copy of the ticket will be left at the lease. After all is said and done, the driver leaves the location and heads towards the offload.
Alright, that's loaded crude oil truck here in Houston. We went on location, we tested the oil, we measured the tanks, checked all of our connections, monitored the loading process, calculated how much to load, finished the loading process, secured the location, secured the truck, finished our paperwork, and then departed location.